The long and the short of this video is, hope is necessary. Thanks for watching. Well, you're still here. We have a lot to cover, so let's get into why I think hope is necessary. First, I want to describe to you our relationships to hope. I classify them in 3 levels. Level 1, the child's hope. Our early years are some of our most joyful. When we were children, our explorative mind was engaged with discovery of our surroundings and new aspects of the world that we have never seen before. Our wonder and amazement with the world is fueled by our unbridled hope that everything outside of what we know will enrich our life in some way. We look at anything like it is a source of play. This quote from Kanye's interview with Kimmel partly captures what I mean. He states in the Jimmy Kimmel interview from 2018, and I quote, "Here's an idea why you're in a simulation. Let's start with acting first of all. When a 2-year-old screams at a restaurant, the entire restaurant screams, teach that kid how to act. We're all unpaid actors in some giant script that we didn't write. Simulation. A 2-year-old jumps on a coffee table and someone says, that's a coffee table, don't jump on that. So it went from being something that makes him feel like Superman, he's got his cape on, to something where he has to think about, this person's like a family member he doesn't like anyway. He's a 2-year-old. He doesn't give a expletive about a coffee or a table. And he's starting to calculate all these things. And by the time you're 40 years old, you've got a wall full of coffee tables, calculating you into traffic, calculating you into your career choice. And it never works, you know? That's the simulation that I'm talking. That's what I mean when I say simulation. Twigs and sticks become swords, rocks become fireballs, and rooftops become launching platforms before we ascend like superheroes. We find the world to be fascinating, and our blind optimism towards it fuels our interactions with it. You might think the other kids will love me if I show up to school dressed as Superman, or if I air guitar, look at how cool I am. Anything was possible, and that excitement fuels most of our first-time interactions with it. Even going to college is a mix of new anxiety but excitement of being able to explore brand new horizons with no supervision. You get to experience your first dance with adulthood. The limitless feeling you have that anything you might do can result in the sky being the limit. This tends to be why adults feel such longing about their previous sense of wonder and curiosity. A relationship to hope not previously appreciated until it wanes. Speaking of which, Level 2, the reality check. The first time your expectations are challenged, you're shaken by that harrowing experience. Jumping off of the roof of your home doesn't lead you to taking off in flight, but instead, fracturing your foot from a not-so-soft landing. And instead of feeling accomplished, you are defeated by shock, shame, and foolishness. Our previous naive hope is challenged with what I would call the reality check. At this level, we gain valuable experience that shapes our initial desire to interact with the world. That first rejection or failure is pivotal as it shapes how we deal with frustration. Some learn to recover quickly as self-sufficiency is ingrained into them early. Some learn that recovery might take a while until sufficient support is provided. Others recover well with support, finding rejection or failure not so bad, and others, vice versa. The obstacles we face present themselves to everyone at various portions of our lives, and the outlook we have as a result vary from individual to individual. But the important part of this level is that after the multitudes of disappointment we face, our once blatant optimism is reshaped accordingly. That advice of just be yourself seems like a lie or a joke played on you when people laugh at you for expressing what you genuinely thought or felt.
I am ready for school. And here's my outfit for today. It's pretty just what I wore in the Superman video. Pretty awesome.
Today was the most embarrassing day of my life. I was just walking down the halls dressed like this, and everyone else was wearing regular clothes. Why does it happen to me? And everyone would just look at me and they'd be laughing and whispering. I can't catch a break. It was so embarrassing.
It's humiliating, demoralizing, and you feel shame when you were only trying to be yourself. This causes many to be shut in, close themselves off, or become reactionary to what society presents. An initial crush turns into hating the opposite sex for just not accepting you as you are. I illustrate these aspects to point out one thing. We shape our worldview with what was presented to us. Whether we choose to chase self-improvement or become self-destructive is entirely dependent upon our support systems and our access to positive or negative stimuli we have access to. The only objective fact we walk away with is that the world does not play out the way we expect. And what we do with that knowledge is a completely valid response, even if others would not agree with what becomes of it. It's easy to judge the Joker harshly for becoming a psychopath after he's treated as a pariah by society. But we must keep in mind that society does not see what individually happened to you and will have no sympathy for what you do after you have been treated a certain way. There's a joke about sports where the refs never catch the original aggressor, but they always catch the person who retaliates. Similarly, you can't punish the rest of society for an individual's actions on you, and thus, you can't be surprised when society does not understand you if you take your pain out on others. When a man or woman becomes the player or seen as a heartless person who just uses people, they never understand that people don't see or experience what they went through. They just become the monster that they never wanted to be hurt by in the first place. Whether you become the individual reeling from your pain of rejection or someone who flourishes because of it depends on too many factors to get into. But one thing remains constant. Everyone faces reality, and it tests all of us. Level 3. The Dreamer's Hope. This is where I am personally most interested. Actually was my inspiration for this video. The most interesting people in our society exist at this level because they tend to be the bigger societal movers that we look towards. But before I get to that, let me parse out the two types of people at the dreamer level of hope. There are those that never give up hope after getting beaten down. Let's call them the idols. These are people who tend to have larger than life aspirations and dreams that their cohorts might abandon when faced with copious setbacks. The hardest thing to do is to hold on to faith in oneself when things get tough, and these individuals believed in themselves and their path even if no one else believed in them. These tend to be real-life heroic figures who take on aspects of superheroes because in the face of struggle and defeat, they stand steadfast in their beliefs. These are people who sacrificed everything for their cause because helping humankind was more important than their personal life ever could be. Even if society doesn't change after their passing, it was worth it to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. Then, there are those that realize that change might not be able to happen from overt actions, but instead through quiet, meticulous, passionate work. This is what I would call the philosophers. This archetype would be the more common dreamer type, as it is people who understand that there are issues with the world or society, but it might not be so simple to have massive societal reform. Instead, one might have to work in the shadows to wake people up. The philosopher types would be the writers, artists, musicians, comedians, and traditional philosophers that understood that leaving meaningful works behind might impact society one mind at a time. They see the world in a way that makes them think there's something wrong with things as they are. If others understand one concept or recognize an idea that they're not aware of, then they may wake up and change the way they live their lives. Friedrich Nietzsche, pardon my pronunciation, believed that despite life's hardships, every individual can become their best self regardless of what society tells you to become. Thomas Paine seeked to help people realize that you don't have to be controlled with ideas perpetuated by central powers and corrupt regimes, and instead, people deserved rights to life and opportunities because we are all equal. This was what we call common sense colloquially. George Orwell wanted individuals to see that society is easily corruptible if left in the hands of morally bankrupt power structures, such as in his novel 1984. Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray paints a very vivid telling of human nature when we are left to our most primal desires with a lack of consequences. Frida Kahlo unapologetically embraced exploration of her pain to express her dissatisfaction with societal norms and acceptance of oneself. And Salvador Dali rejected conformity, seeing the world in unconventional surrealism. He helped us embrace life in an artistic manner, to believe anything is possible. The philosopher is similar to the idol, in that they live a life dedicated to their art or message. They silently took to the pen, easel, and brush, deciding that if they couldn't make those around them listen, they would show the world what they saw instead. The dreamer is rare. In today's age of the internet, creators start out in that childlike hope of being seen and embraced. But after their reality check, when their work isn't instantly embraced or recognized, many abandon their originality, seeking ways to mend their wounded ego. Where are we? Most people I would place at the second level of hope, where our wonderment and joy of the world have been reined in to a moderate degree. While most people flatly sit in the disillusionment of their realistic outlook on life, some are able to hold on to the once playful aspirations they had as a child. Take the Disney adult, for instance. They embody the first level of hope. They've come to terms with the idea that most people don't value the fun, fantasy, or whimsy that defined their childhood. Yet, instead of abandoning those dreams, they cling to fantasy as a meaningful escape from the grayness of adult life. Even those who have their little hobbies may never talk about the things they're into openly for fear of judgment from others. Hope and unbridled imagination are often dismissed as childish notions, replaced with the belief that growing up means getting serious about life. Even if they want to abandon all notions of their previous youth, the all too common midlife crisis causes them to unleash a last, desperate longing for the dreams once felt. The midlife crisis is the final gasp before the hopes and dreams once held as a child are snuffed out entirely, accompanied by a bitter acceptance of the ultimate reality check. It's too late. I think it's rare to find what I call dreamers. I'm just going to be blunt. This level of hope isn't very practical for everyday life. As mentioned previously, these types of people believe in their cause so deeply that they are willing to sacrifice everything for it. That's why they tend to be starving artists or the most stubborn pains in the neck. It would kill them to give up their dreams. I must caution, the dreamer's hope does not guarantee a stable path through life. It's not a pragmatic path of success or safety in the comfort of having a family with a nice white picket fence. These individuals may never even be acknowledged for what they believe in. It often takes departing from our finite existence for those who need to hear your message to listen to what you have to say and ask too much to bear for most. For dreamers, it's about striving toward a change no matter how intangible or unattainable. If you wonder if you're a dreamer or not, ask yourself this. Are you willing to die for what you believe in, even if the world never changes? Conclusion. I want to make something clear. No level of hope is inherently better than any other. Each reflects our outlook on the world, shaping our experiences and actions within it. It's important to recognize that even if we can see examples of each of the levels within society, they aren't rigid categories that some people are in or not. It's not about who has what level of hope, but rather they are ways we see the world and thus influence our decisions, dreams, and responses to life's challenges. Personally, if I was to give myself a category, in my current way of viewing the world, I see myself as a realist, and that would put me at the reality check level. I've learned that life isn't so simple to allow you to do whatever you wish and you'll excel at it. Rather, you must understand that there is a major trade-off in whatever you choose to do with your life. You might not be good right away at whatever you try your hand at. And that means practice to where others will recognize your talent will take time, effort, and meaningful work, which a lot of people will just abandon at the thought of. Think about it. Things we are good at, we keep doing, and things we aren't, we drop almost immediately. I also partly see myself as a dreamer, as I see issues that I think are wrong with the world, but I don't necessarily have an answer to how to fix them. They're just things I contemplate on in silence, seeking answers through books, philosophy, and many forms of media. The solution isn't always a clear one, and it might not be up to you to solve it, something I'm wrestling with myself. Being a dreamer takes a lot of courage, and quite a lot of hubris. It means stepping out of line, challenging the norms of one's social conditioning, and risking failure for something greater than oneself. It's rare to find people who can pick themselves up over and over when life kicks them down time and time again. The sad truth is, most of the people who changed the world didn't see the fruits of their labor. Their work was a monumental sacrifice taken because what exists now is not acceptable, and we all benefit from that sacrifice. But that's the kind of hope that is necessary to keep this world from falling into an economic, social, political, and religious depravity. Those who benefit from keeping the status quo have no want for structural reform, and those who are unaffected by the plights of the world are unaware of any need to change the world. Those who suffer the most only desire their burdens lifted, but that begs the question, who would fight for them? I said in the beginning, hope is necessary. It alone is the fuel for all decisions we make. Hope makes your life better by being the lifeblood of your choices, guiding you to choose what helps you. I think about the state of things now, how we were given opportunities to live in a better world because of the sacrifices of previous generations. I wish people would have more hope in the future, because if we put our minds to causes as a collective, we have the power to get done so much more than ever was possible, even in a world of mass communication. The internet should be an opportunity to create massive and beautiful change from established traditions that might be failing our society. Look at the education system. We once held it only possible for those already advantaged most in society to attend higher education. Now, with the age of the internet, people can learn nearly any soft skill without even leaving their home. Amateur programmers, engineers, scientists, journalists, editors, and writers exist just through the supplemental information available for free. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I personally find the doomer mentality woefully missing the mark. And believe me, I struggle with it myself, going back and forth. But I recognize our ability to be a doomer, especially in a world of unending privilege, is a luxury. I totally accept that the world isn't perfect, and there still needs to be massive changes for all of us to have better quality of life. That's not a point of contention for me. But thinking the world has gone to hell and the future is lost generally comes from people unwilling to sacrifice for anything meaningful. Even when I enter the doom spiral thinking there is no change that can fix the world, I often challenge my own views with the works of philosophers, writers, artists, comedians, and musicians that come from a wide range of backgrounds. Since I only have my perspective, I make sure to hold on to the thinking that my perspective is not the only way of viewing things. Even if I feel one way, someone might feel the exact opposite of me, and it's a view worth exploring. I guess what I'm saying in the most loquacious manner is, if you start to think you are the only perspective, or your worldview is the only one out there, then you are validated in feeling exactly how you feel. But to the same right, people are justified in writing off your perspective, because it doesn't take into account any others but your own. This is why I argue hope is vital. It is faith in something beyond yourself. It is belief in the idea that the world can be better than it is today. Not because you will see the fruits of your effort, but because your children or grandchildren can inherit a world where they feel safe, secure, and happier than you ever felt. That joy is intrinsically worth fighting for in and of itself. It might seem foolish to think this way, but true optimism is recognizing that the world isn't amazing or perfect. It's not all peachy, and the future does seem desolate. But that's not cause to give up. That is your calling to create an avenue where future generations can grow up happier than we ever did. It can always get better. It starts with the choices you make today. The way you live your life is influencing the world, and hope gives us the confidence that our actions today influence tomorrow. I ask you to have hope, faith in yourself, and a better tomorrow. Why? It's better I end on one of my favorite quotes.
The story goes that he wrote it on the last night of his life, keeping watch from the barricades in the middle of the night. I don't have the whole thing committed to memory, but there's a line in it I think about sometimes.
In dark times, should the stars also go out.
Anyway, good night to you.